Oh, well, look, thank you very much to those who are joining me here for this webinar presentation. By way of introduction, my name is Patrick Kearns and I am the Australasian Regional Manager here at Prospero Teaching. So a little bit about my background. I am myself a New Zealand primary trained teacher, and I have only just recently returned from the UK, where I was working in the last couple of years as a senior recruitment consultant. So in that capacity, I was involved with assisting many New Zealand and Australian trained teachers with making the move to the UK to find teaching work. Be that on a casual or a longer term permanent basis. Prior to working as a consultant, I myself was one of those teachers, working as a supply teacher, and then also worked in a permanent capacity, and I had the opportunity to both teach in London and also outside of London as well. So that's a little bit about me and why I'm sitting here today. So I've put together a very short presentation via PowerPoint, which hopefully you'll be able to see as I've clicked through, and that's just a basic reference point, but Debbie has informed me that you are able to ask questions of me throughout the presentation, so please feel free to send those through, and I'll try and touch base as we go, and of course at the end if there are any questions set aside some time as well. So let's see how this all works. Okay. So obviously the first slide, why am I here? Well, obviously it's to introduce our company and how we as a teaching agency can be of service and support to you in the future. You know, obviously if teaching abroad, particularly in the UK, is something of interest to you. And obviously a couple of points today will be about the benefits to you of making the move and what we can offer you as an agency. Okay, so your dedicated Oz NZ team. So why we've called it the Oz NZ team is both myself and Ashley work on behalf of Prospero Teaching. Specifically, our roles are to support Australian and New Zealand trained teachers with, as I said, making the move to the UK, finding you guys employment, and being on hand as a support team to help you with everything that is involved with making the eventual move over there for teaching work. So our job is not limited to you to finding a teaching job, which of course is what we do, but it's help, support and advise with all of the other things that are involved with that process. So things like supporting you with finding accommodation, assisting you with opening up bank accounts and registering with doctors, and obviously, given both myself and Ashley's background as teachers, we are able to share our own first-hand experiences about the move, and obviously questions that you will ask are obviously questions we ourselves had to ask you know, a number of years ago before we initiated the move. So whereas I'm based in Australasia, so I'm working out of New Zealand, but I obviously have a lot of involvement here in Australia as well. Ashley is working in our head office in London. So between us, we take you through the process from an initial chat like now, or a call, or an initial email, through to actually booking you in the taxi that'll pick you up at the airport when you arrive in the UK, etc., etc. So that's a little bit about us, our background and experience. Our offices. So unlike a lot of UK agencies which are present today at the fair, who tend to base themselves out of London, and the majority of their client schools are based in or around London, Prospero Teaching is fortunate in that we have 7 offices right across the UK. So for those of you who come from a small township or a more semi-rural area and who have a reservation about living and working in such a large city like London, we are able to provide you with other options. You know, if you're looking for a more semi-rural or township living environment, then based on that, within our capacity, we are able to offer a wide variety of teaching placements. Okay, so And obviously, I put down the bottom our overseas offices. So we have offices in Canada, such as the demand at the moment right across the UK that we are recruiting teachers actively out of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, also countries like Ireland, South Africa and the Netherlands. However, our client schools prefer Australian, New Zealand and Canadian teachers because in relation to the curriculum, our curriculums in these countries are very similar to that of the UK, and also in regards to teacher training, so your university studies, that is very much recognised as being on par to those teachers who are training in the UK. That's why so many teachers from Australia and New Zealand are received so well in the schools in the UK. The transition is quite smooth. Teaching in the UK. So, you know, why look at that as an option? Career opportunities, international experience, the opportunity to travel, the opportunity to strengthen your CV, and obviously, as I mentioned, English schools love Australian and New Zealand teachers. So, why a lot of teachers will make the move to the UK or look at that as an option is because in New Zealand, in Australia, and in countries like Canada as well, depending on where you've lived and trained, sometimes it is quite competitive and sometimes quite difficult to find yourself into a full-time role upon graduation. Okay, a lot of teachers will find themselves doing bits and pieces of supply or cover teaching and sometimes feel frustrated that they can't actually go into or find a role you know, fairly immediately. So for those teachers who find themselves in that situation, and for those teachers who are looking to do an OE experience to travel throughout the UK and Europe, then taking the opportunity to set aside a year or two to go over to the UK, and that is a fantastic option because at the moment, unlike Australia and New Zealand, which I've said is very competitive in terms of finding work, in the UK, schools are crying out for teachers, full stop. Okay, so, you know, we have the ability as an agency to find you full-time work, either within one school, okay, in a permanent capacity, and also we are actually, as an agency, able to guarantee you that we'll be able to find you 5 days supply teaching or CRT teaching in the week. And we can guarantee that we will find you that work, and if we can't find you that work, so we only find you 3 or 4 bookings, we will still commit to paying you your full teaching daily rate 5 days a week. So as an option, you know, that's fantastic because that enables you to get security of work before you leave Australia or New Zealand shores. And it enables you to get an awareness of teaching in the UK and what teaching and learning looks like before then committing to a longer term role. Okay, so that's something that in Australia and New Zealand is very much unheard of. Supply teaching on CRT is very sporadic, whereas in the UK, the volume of it is so plentiful that we can actually provide you a full-time contract to just do supply teaching. What are we as an agency looking for? So, as an agency, Prospero Teaching are looking for qualified or newly qualified teachers and experienced teachers for both primary and secondary schools. Now, if you're an early childhood teacher, so you have trained to teach between the ages of, say, 0 and 5 or 3 to 8, we are also very interested in being made aware of your availability. Early childhood teaching is structured a little bit differently in the UK, whereby children, when they turn age 3, will tend to go to a primary school, and they, for their first 2 years, they will be in nursery when they're age 3 to 4, reception year, which is when they're age 4 to 5, and then obviously they'll start year 1 when they turn 5 years of age. So it's a little bit different to Australia and New Zealand, where early childhood is teaching or education is usually separated from a primary school. In the UK, that's usually combined. Okay, we are looking also for teachers who are not necessarily looking for full-time work, but are quite happy to do some supply or casual teaching. Okay, obviously we're looking for teachers who can also commit longer term. Now, long-term teaching doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a permanent teaching role. It can be anything whereby you are employed in a school for a period of 6 weeks or longer. So that might be to cover a maternity post. It might be to cover a teacher who's on long-term sickness, what have you. Okay, so it might be that you would prefer to commit to a role that might be 2 months in duration up to, maybe 10 months. So we have those longer-term roles that occur right throughout the academic year. So you don't necessarily need to come at the start of the academic year if you're wanting to secure a longer-term role. We would be very confident of finding you a longer-term role, even if you came partway through the academic year. SEN teachers, that's short for special educational needs teachers, those are in high demand in the UK. And of course, we are looking for teachers with energy and enthusiasm. Part of the reason that Australian and New Zealand teachers are received so well in the UK is down to an attitudinal thing. Okay, schools love the vibrancy, the confidence that Australian and New Zealand teachers have when they come to work in schools. Okay, so that's a massive thing that we look for as an agency. What do we offer you? So if you do choose to come on board with us here at Prospero Teaching, we can offer you flexibility. So that is the guaranteed supply teaching contracts. So if, for example, you are wanting to teach for a period of 4 to 5 weeks, before then maybe having a break of a couple of weeks to travel throughout Europe, we can offer you that. What we do is we guarantee your availability. So if you want to teach, set aside 3 months to work either in a school, one school, or to do casual teaching over that period of time, we will guarantee that we will have the work for you. And as I said, if we don't, we'll still pay you. That provides you the security of full-time work, but it gives you the opportunity to pick and choose when you want to teach. Training. As an agency that's been around for 16 years, we heavily invest in the ongoing professional development of our teachers in general, but specifically the teachers who are coming from overseas. We realise that there are differences in terms of your own training and experience, and we realise that as a recently qualified or a newly qualified teacher, that you're going to need to have information and awareness around different behaviour management practices in the UK, how the UK schools tend to structure assessment and planning, etc., etc. So we run free courses that happen throughout the year. These are accredited courses that you get certificates for. These are things that you'd be able to put on your CV over the course of time that you're in the UK, and these will be looked upon very favourably from schools back here in Australia and New Zealand, when you choose to come back. We also run overseas induction days, which is where we get a large cohort of teachers right across from those countries that I've been mentioning throughout this presentation, and we will run a course at a hotel or a large educational institution, and that's across the course of the day. We'll get experts in the field to come in and speak to you about all the different facets of both teaching, right down to we have people coming from banks and things like that, to help provide you information about how you go about setting up certain things, So we'll have real estate agents there, managers of banks, etc., etc. Constant support, well, that's something that we definitely pride ourselves on. As I said, many of the consultants that you will be working with in the UK are like myself. They are former teachers who are now working in a consultancy capacity, and many of those consultants in those offices that we have across the UK are themselves former Australian or New Zealand teachers. Okay, so we know what it's like to make the move. We've done the teaching, so we are on hand constantly to be able to help you with whatever questions or support you require throughout your time over in the UK. It's not all work and no play, so we have a variety of social events, so teaching parties and the like that happen right throughout the year. So that's an opportunity for you to network and socialise with other teachers from all across the world that are working for us as an agency. And I've been involved with many of those, and in fact many of the consultants will join in on those parties as well, and they're fabulous fun. Some of the perks that we're currently offering, we offer a £250 relocation bonus. So upon your 30th day of working for us as an agency, we will deposit £250 into your UK bank account by way of thanks. And we also offer airport pickup, and we also pay for your first couple of nights accommodation when you arrive in the UK, just to enable you to get over the jet lag, put your head on the pillow, and obviously that's a massive help, particularly given it's such a long journey over to the United Kingdom. Application tips. Here's just some very rough bullet points to help you when considering applying to us as an agency, and some points to assist you with interviewing with UK schools if you find yourself in the position that we as an agency have arranged a Skype-based interview with some senior leaders of the school that you're interested in interviewing for. So, first to CVs. What we like to see as an agency, and what our schools like to see when we're sending over CVs of you for roles that they have, that they're not too long. If you can try to keep those CVs to one or two pages maximum, then that would be fantastic. Please feel free to structure your CV by using subheadings. So, for example, education, work experience, interests. It helps to break up the CV, and it helps people reading the CV to direct their eyes to the information which is most relevant for them. We also like if you can include on your CV or attached in the email with the CV that you're sending over a small profile photo of yourself. These photos are typically headshots, okay, and are very much like passport photos, although we encourage you to have a smile on your face. Please feel free also, when sending over your CV, to include things like a link to your LinkedIn profile page if you have one of those established, and also include your Skype details as well. As I say, if your CV is received well by a few schools, they will probably follow up with some type of either formal or informal Skype chat with you, should they want to find out some more information. So please include those as well. Get creative. We like to see CVs that stand out, that catch the eye. These may include some photos of you teaching, training, snippets of references that highlight you and show some of your positive attributes. Please feel free. Ultimately you are wanting to stand out as a graduate, so the first initial step is to be creative in the way that you structure your CV. And when sending over your CV, it's always nice that if you feel you want to add some additional information but you don't want to clutter the CV up, you can put a few bullet points in the email when sending it over to us, just to explain a little bit about you as a person and your motivation for making the move over to the UK. If you find yourself either chatting with a consultant via Skype, or indeed we are able to support you with a Skype-based interview, okay, this is an interview that you will undertake before leaving Australia's shores, there are some just basic little points to help you in preparation. So dress to impress. So dress as exactly if you were going to meet and interview in person. Have some pertinent or relevant questions to ask. Okay? Head teachers hate nothing more than people who are just very passive throughout an interview and don't have questions. Questions show that a level of interest. They show that you've done your research. They show that you're serious about making the move over. Okay, so always have questions prepared. Speak confidently and enthusiastically. Obviously, that's an important part of teaching, full stop. And head teachers and consultants will want to see your confidence and enthusiasm for making the move over. So it's important to be active in the calls, to use tonality, to really capture people's interest. Do your prior research. Well, that goes without saying, particularly if you're interviewing for a particular school. We will have encouraged you and sent through to access the information on the web. We will have sent you through links to the school's inspection reports, which give a formal overview of each aspect of the school. So it's really important that you'll access that information because that will help you with questions. And let your personality shine through as well, okay? When head teachers and consultants are considering you for work, they want to know about you as a person as well. You know, why do you want to make the move over? What are your goals? What are your motivations? What interests do you have outside of teaching? And that's a really important point because sometimes schools are looking at the overall package. What can you bring to the school? How can you help out with the life of the school? So, for example, although you may be a maths and English teacher, but you, through your own experiences, have been heavily involved in music or performing arts, then obviously a school will look at those qualities and think, well, that'll be great, you know, because you may be able to support the school in some of their after-school programs that they have, some of the performances. So really highlighting things that you can bring to a school is very important. How to apply. So if on the basis of this presentation and some of the information that you're accessing online, you're interested in sending your CV over, or you're just generally interested in finding out some more information, the best way to get in contact with us here at Prospero Teaching is via our AusNZ email address. Please feel free to either call or text me, and that's my personal business mobile phone, and I'll happily return a call. Or you can just jump on our Facebook page as well. So Prospero Teaching has a general Facebook page, but also a Facebook page specifically for Australian and New Zealand teachers. So there are some of the links below. So why Prospero Teaching? Well, look, if you've invested some time and energy into making the move, you will have obviously jumped online, or if, like your fellow students here today, you'll see that there are many such agencies offering, in effect, the same thing. So, you know, why choose us as opposed to one of those other agencies? Well, look, we're a gold standard education agency. That's what this little logo in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide is showing. So we are audited by this overarching recruitment organisation. We have very strict criteria that we have to adhere to, and we have reached the gold standard, which is the pinnacle, and we've had that accreditation for many, many years. We work with loads of schools right across the UK nationally, okay, so we have a lot of choice available. We do have friendly and knowledgeable staff, and as I made reference to earlier, many of those staff come from a teaching background themselves, okay. We are an award-winning agency, okay. We have achieved many accolades and awards right across the 16 years we've been in operation. Most recently, last year, for 2015, we were part of the top 100 fastest growing companies right across the UK, and that's an award which is bestowed upon us by Virgin companies, which are very familiar under Sir Richard Branson. There's just a short little quick testimonial, and if you would like any more, I can certainly send forward more that I have on file. This is from a teacher that I worked alongside. Her name was Kim. I worked with Kim over in London. She worked as a primary teacher. She stayed there for 2 years, and that's just a little snippet about her time working with us as an agency, which is lovely to see. And as I say, that's just one of many that we have to hand. And finally, this is the last slide, which obviously has our logo, but also the acknowledgement of the award we won last year, which is fantastic for us as an agency. So, in a nutshell, that is the presentation. I hope you have found it to be of some use. Please feel free to type through any questions that you may have. If time is working against you, obviously please feel free to jump online and access that information. I'm sure Debbie will make this presentation available to you later on, so you can click back through those slides and go through the links again. As I say, I'd love to hear from you, whether you're actively interested in making the move fairly soon, or whether this is something you're considering for maybe a year's time. I think that's all. It's been lovely speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future.